the meeting of the Executive Cabinet Member Regeneration portfolio. We've got first item on the agenda, monitoring of Exec Cabinet Member decisions. So any questions, queries in relation to that? I cannot see any hands, so therefore we'll move to the second item on the agenda, which is the establishment of new planning graduate post. Dwayne, are you taking that?
I am, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Go on.
Yep, so good afternoon, councillors. So this is just a request to create a new graduate planning post within the planning structure. We've had an opportunity through the Local Government Association Pathways to Planning funding. This is an opportunity to bring graduates who may have not necessarily thought they wanted to undertake a career in planning, but they've graduated from university and encouraged them into planning as a career. So we've undertaken some interviews. We've got an absolutely fantastic candidate, and that is why we're fast tracking this report as a separate report, because at next month's ECM meeting we're going to be bringing a report which is a full restructure of the planning service, and that actually includes the funding for this role. So, but this is just fast tracking the kind of employment and recruitment of this individual, because obviously we can't wait until October to do that. So the funding is all included within the restructure report. There is an additional annual bursary which we will receive through the Pathways to Planning of £10,000 towards towards the candidate undertaking a master's degree course, and there's a very small cost to the council of £2,000, which we can cover within budget. And the last thing is to say that Jane and I will be saying at next ECM meeting, it's very important that we get the right structure in planning. We've had an opportunity to totally review the structure from top to bottom from the management grades, and this is an opportunity for some succession planning and to bring young graduates into the service, which is really important for the future of the service. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. And Councillor Warren.
Thanks, Chair. Absolutely welcome this paper, and I do think it's desperately needed, not just in Bolton Council, but at councils up and down the country. My question, though, is because councils can be quite incestuous when it comes to recruiting other staff, and because it is an area that's well known up and down the country for having gaps in the knowledge and the skill base as well, just how far is this being rolled out in other areas, and particularly in GM as well? So are there other councils that are taking up this opportunity? Just because obviously don't want to train somebody and then lose them and then not necessarily have somebody, and start from scratch. Whereas if there's, say, 10 people going on this journey, it means that there's 10 extra skilled people within this workforce. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for your question, councillor. So and fully aware that there's always an opportunity for colleagues to move across to other GM authorities and a lot of competition because of the skills shortage. I'm not sure exactly how many other of the GM authorities have undertaken this, but several have. It was open to all. I know not all of them have taken up this opportunity, but several have, and I can find out the exact figure and share that if you're interested.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thanks, Hector. In very similar vein as Adele's asked, because it is a worry that planning has been poached, or across authority, and also private sector. I can remember quite a few people who've worked for Bolton have then suddenly met a few months or years later working for developers. Gamekeeper turn poacher routine. Can I just ask, we train this person, they get what's in. How long is it before they can leave? That's my question. Because, it can complete the course, blah, 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 signed off. Thank you very much. I'm off up to Manchester tomorrow, and all that time. I know they've been there for the required number of years, but we suddenly lose somebody to somebody else, like I say, the private sector.
Dwayne?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for your question, Councillor. So it's a 3-year opportunity. So it is a 3-year opportunity. But when we bring the report next month with the proposed changes to the structure, at the moment, we're very aware that we've got a development gap between a planner and then there's a massive jump to being a principal planner. So we've introduced some opportunities for some career graded positions and for people to progress through the structure and then hopefully fill that gap between being a planner and a principal planner, and it should hopefully deter people from being attracted to a higher salary at other councils and aligns us to other councils. So there will be an opportunity for this individual to progress through and align a sight through to however far they want to progress their career with Bolton.
Could I just follow? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, go on.
I mean, the report, it sounds very interesting, the report. You've got me on tenderix now, Dwayne. Wondering what's going to come, because hopefully it will be something good, because I think all of us have had concerns about planning for some time. But, will we have, even with the changes, will we have enough bodies to achieve what we want? Or is this just, even with this graduate post? Because what concerns me is we take somebody else on and we're still short. And where do we stand with the proposal which the government announced sometime, well, the new government, should I say, about 300 additional planners? That's like one per authority. Better than a kick in shins, as they say. But, have we any information about that? And where would, if we do get one, where would that fit in? Will it fill another gap, or will it be Thanks very much.
Thank you. Dwayne?
Yeah,
thank you, Chair. Come back?
Yes, thank you. So there will be, you will see an increase in what we've done. We've taken the opportunity within the restructure, and I've really given you an insight into next month's meeting now. But just to disestablish some posts which we've not recruited to and have been vacant for a long amount of time in certain areas of planning, and move those across into different areas to fill some of those gaps. So you will see within the FTE, the total FTE is the same, but within the establishment, we've taken the opportunity to move some of those people around to some of the other areas where we're really, really struggling with resource. Within some of the funding that Paul's got available, we're creating a new post to really concentrate and support Paul and around the regeneration and some of those major projects as well. So there's all sorts of different changes and things that we're going to be bringing in the next report. And changes and in the MPPF and things like that are going to do, and promises for more planners moving into the sector is something that we'll have to kind of like address at some point. But at the moment, this is within the costs that we've got and within the establishment that we've got. We feel that when we bring the structure, it'll be in the best place to deliver the kind of the service and the scale of service that we want to be delivering.
Thank you. There are no other questions. I welcome this proposal because it addresses much needed capacity issue within planning department, and certainly in relation to new skills and sort of fresh blood coming into planning department is a very welcome news as well. So based on that, I'm going to approve this proposal. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Workwell Partnership Vanguard proposal. Marie, are you doing that?
Chair, I'll start off and Marie go in with any of the technical matters or difficult questions that members might ask me. So I mean, members will be familiar with the workshop and the work that the workshop does. We've been operating now, for 15 years. We're constantly having updates, and members will be familiar with the updates to various contracts and neutron contracts coming through. This is a slightly different contract. It is still, I mean, it's a significant amount of money going into the council. and £665,000. It tries to deal with and is set up to deal with the ability to support people back into work in terms of medical conditions, whereas some of the other projects that we've got going are down to training people up who've been long-term unemployed or training people up to get into jobs. This is a slightly different approach, and the partnership is working with our own NHS leads and the public health team to ensure that we can put in place a partnership to allow and bring people back into work. In terms of the money that's available, members will be familiar with the fact that many of our proposals and the contracts that we've got with DWP are performance related. So some of this money is performance related, some is guaranteed. So the money that is guaranteed to the council will cover all the costs of the employment, and then the performance related funding will be used to create additional resources and dedicated specialist commissions and resources as soon as we're certain that we'll get the money in, because we can't commit to delivering something without making Janet happy on the funding side of things. So that's the way this package will work, and happy for Marie to come in and make any additional points.
Yeah, before I bring Marie in, Councillor Warren.
Yeah, just have a query regarding what the recommendation is, because it isn't clear. Is it option 3 or option 2? Is it the full cohort, or is it cohort 1 to 3? Because the report isn't written in a clear way that explains what cohorts are going to be targeted. So if you look at the kind of the recommendations at the bottom compared to the top, it doesn't quite explain whether it's the full 4 cohorts or 1 to 3. So that's my first question.
Okay.
Do you want me to take that?
Go on.
The cohorts are 4 cohorts. In the report, it details some of the options that we want to undertake, and the options were that we can do nothing and not accept any of the money. But what we are opting to do is and the recommendation is that we accept all the grant from NHSGM, and that we will facilitate all 4 cohorts to go through. There is 3 Greater Manchester cohorts that have been set by Greater Manchester, and the 4th cohort was a locality cohort that we could decide ourselves. And for Bolton, through needs and data, we've suggested that we support neurodiverse residents across Bolton, because as Paul said, the workshop already have a number of contracts for employment and skills, and we also have a number of other providers that deliver employment and skills commission provision. But actually what we've understood is that there's not much specialist provision for our residents. So it is for 4 cohorts.
So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree with 4 cohorts, but the way that the report is written, that is not clear. And because that's not clear, that it just says that you're going to allow the borough solicitor to do the work, etc. It's not clear based on the recommendation which option is being selected and which Councillor Zaman is going to be putting forward to sign off, which is why I've asked, if that was clear in the report, I wouldn't have asked that question. And I do think that it's important, because I've seen a number of reports recently over the last couple of days, which they're not accurate and they're not correct. And obviously these are going on the council's website for other people to scrutinise as well. So I think it's important that the reports are correct and right. But thanks.
Yeah, I think, Chair, we can address that in the minutes, and normally it's me saying that at the bottom of the options there needs to be a clear recommendation to adopt option 3, and so apologies to members, because it's normally me asking other people to put that, to make sure that's in their reports, and this is one of my reports. So yeah, that's...
yeah. So I'm looking at this report, and I take your points on board, Councillor Warren. Very, very valid points. 3.3, it says option 3 is participate in full cohort 1 to 4 in WWPV. Does that need clarification? And then it says this is the only option to fully utilize in the following paragraph the available funding to best effect. So is that what, that's the recommendation, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and so I think there's an opportunity, Chair, and hopefully this will work. Is within the minutes we can make it clear that it'll adopt. The recommendation is to adopt option 3 within the minutes, within the report.
Right. Okay. No problem. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson, before I bring Marie in.
Yeah, just I think it could have been made more clearer, you know. So Paul has to sit on the naughty step for that. Can I just ask, in relation to option 4, could Marie just clarify what that option is on the local aspect? Because maybe I'm reading the report wrong, and if I have, I apologise. I'm not quite clear about that. In relation to, it's only a 2-year funding scheme. That's the trouble with a lot of these schemes, that we suddenly get a pot of money, you know, jump through a load of hoops, etc. I mean, but it is a scheme which can help a lot of people. We all know that physical health, I know that myself these days, and also mental health issues, which affects a lot of, well, 1 in 4 of us will have some form of mental health issue, which can be extremely detrimental, to say the least. So it is an important scheme. Can I just ask, in terms of monitoring, because it's news having a scheme on, you know, what are we got? What are the outcomes? What can we learn from it? Because this scheme may be dropped in you know, come 2026. You know, oh, sorry, we'll move the funding to something else. You know what that funding bodies are like? They have an idea of, oh, shift it to something else. So what is the monitoring arrangements, and how are we going to learn from this scheme to take it forward if any other funding comes available? So we're ready for the next step, shall we say? Or has it worked out? Did it not? You know, what's the good bits and the bad bits of it?
Yeah. Paul, before I bring...
Yeah, I'll just come in, because across GM, all of the councils are looking at all of the, I think it's 15 different funding streams for supporting people, and each of them addresses something slightly different, and some of the schemes are delivered by councils, some of them are delivered by Injus, some of them are delivered by DWP Direct, and then other third parties as well, the growth company, for example. So we are looking at it, and recently one of the private secretaries to Department for Work and Pensions came up to visit Bolton and Greater Manchester. So we made this point very, very clearly that we can't keep going on with 2-year, 3-year funding streams. We need to establish a longer term strategy to get the best for our local residents. So that was made very clearly both by GM and ourselves. So they've hopefully gone back to London to come up with take that feedback on board, and then just in terms of the monitoring, then yes, we do have to provide feedback to the funders through GM to the government, and and as I mentioned, it's performance related, so we'll be able to monitor the performance, and then the idea is within the council and within place we'll report on that performance on each of the funding streams, and if we're not performing, then ultimately we would be flagging it up to Councillor Zaman, and we will have to find a way to address that performance, and if I suppose it's within Councillor Zaman's gift to then say, well, we need to take this to scrutiny, or we need to take it back to an ECM meeting to report on performance. So yeah, I mean it's something that is very well, we're very well aware of it, and we'll make sure that we are addressing the performance.
Councillor Warren.
Thanks, Chair. Mine is just basically about capacity management, just because it's a 17-month kind of project, which is a very, very short period of time. So it is quite linked to what Councillor Wilkinson was just saying. Obviously, if you've got, shall we say, clients, I'm sure there's other words that could be used, customers, whatever, who access the service, it's for 824, it's 11 per week. But a lot of these individuals will probably require quite sustained support. So you might end up kind of, if you're taking on 11 a week, you're not going to close off 11 a week cases to get to the 824. So my concerns, even though this is very welcomed, my concerns revolve around the fact that it's only a 17-month project. And if you're supporting people that, I'm neurodivergent, if you may not know or know. So that explains a lot of my little quirks. But obviously some individuals may require a lot of support, and I'm quite concerned about the 824 target and the 17-month deadline that you've been given. I think it's almost kind of setting you up to not be as successful as the project should be, and that's not because of the staff or intentions, that's purely based on the amount of time that's been given.
No, I totally accept what you say. I think the more we can prove that this works, the more we can say to government that this needs to be extended. It's interesting that there's mention of UK shared prosperity funding, which was a 3-year deal going into year 4. Some of the funding streams that have been mentioned on the 15 funding streams, there's now talk of quite a few of those going into additional years. So I'll let Marie come in and
yeah, Marie, come in.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's a welcome point, and something that we have conversations, like Paul said, about regularly. I think the conversations that we've already had is that there is already a lot of within the system. There's already, especially across the NHS, the system is already at capacity, but through our networks and conversations, there is already a lot of support for individuals, and the way that we've set the model up is that we will be communicating, but we will be triaging residents in terms of whether the work well model is the right support for them, because there's other commission support already available within the Bolton system, and we don't have a triage service in Bolton at the moment. So with the extra funding that we've got available, we'll be able to triage our residents coming onto this support to make sure they're getting the right support at the right time. And if Workwell isn't the right support, then officers will be referring into other support that is right for them. And also, in terms of the point about 17 months, I was on a conversation with GM, the Combined Authority, and NHS GM yesterday, and what they are looking at in terms of the devolved funding further down the line and using this model as a pilot is that a joint inclusive economy unit, which is where they're looking at the moment on GM and NHS GM about pooling resources around health and work, recognising that as commissioners, as DWP, NHS, local authority and the combined authority as standalone organisations, that there's a lot of commissioning done in silos, and actually DWP from the top, the combined authority and NHS GM are looking at health, work, and hopefully combining resources to make sure that when we have pilots like this, we're looking at the longitude journey of our residents and not just looking, right, well, there's 18 months here, and actually looking at the learning from this programme, because again, the 4 cohorts that have been identified, normally we've got to say, right, well, we're putting 10 individuals through that cohort and another 20 through another, and what GM are really interested to understand, and locally for us, through those cohorts, actually, where is the need in Bolton compared to Rochdale or Bury? Is it the neurodiverse local cohort that we've identified, or is it one of the other 3 GM cohorts? And actually from that learning, they'll be scrutinising, well, what actually was the support needed? So there is some longer term conversations happening around potentially the pooling of resources from a commissioning point of view, so that we're not just commissioning programme after programme after programme and not taking that learning. So it will be scrutinised and will be monitored appropriately.
Thank you. Thanks, Marie. This is very helpful. Well, I have no other questions. I can't see any of the hands, so I'm going to approve this report. Option 3 as set out in section 3.3 of the report, and if that could be minuted correctly in the minutes, please. Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is Horwich Health Hub car park funding.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll take this one. So members will be familiar with the previous reports that have come through the system, seeking to authorise the delivery of the health hub, then separately the authority for the car park and securing the funding for delivering the car park. Further work since that happened, and since the detailed design work on the car park has been undertaken along with Dwayne and his team in highways, and because this facility will now encompass the HGV to do scanning, and that's a welcome addition to this location. It has been identified that some further work is required to be undertaken to the entrance to the health hub and the leisure centre. This wasn't assumed to be required when we first took a report to you. So that additional work on top of the funding for the car park, both by the health provider and then the council, would be £137,000 as detailed in the report. And as this is a requirement based on all the surveys that have been undertaken, now that the detailed design work has been able to be completed, then the recommendation is to provide that funding. We're not asking for the funding to come from the district centres pot. The funding will come from an identified pot within the 100 million. So it just means that we won't be spending money on certain elements, and we'll be reducing some of the budgets within the 100 million. And this is a critical element, and we've already procured CADIC to undertake some of the work on some of the wider work on the car park, and subject to this authority, then we'll be extending that contract to procure CADIC to commit to do this piece of work, and it is a beneficial piece of work to the overall delivery of the health hub, and the recommendations are to agree to this funding because of the need to deliver the improved entrance design and the structure of that entrance, which will benefit the whole of Horwich, because that'll make the ability to have that HGV scanning facility on site as many times as is possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Paul. Councillor Grant.
Wow, which thread do I pull on first? This is becoming a little bit of a farce, if I'm honest with you. If you recall, we suspended standing orders so that Caddick could finish the car park at the same time they were doing the health hub. Time was critical. It was of the essence. If we don't do it, it'll cost us X amount more and the world will fall apart, and etc., etc. And the threats came in. The health hub car park is completely finished, yet we have a gravel pit still. So they've not done it at the same time. In addition to that, you've now mentioned this, the road isn't suitable nor fit for purpose, so that this NHS piece of equipment now needs to get down, yet the council are picking up the bill for that. If this scanning equipment is required, then shouldn't it be the NHS section that are paying for that and not the council? These things haven't miraculously doubled in weight since they first thought of putting these services and facilities in there. I remember, in fact, the car park has a designated space for this scanner to arrive there. So for me, it's us picking up again, as I've said in a meeting previously in terms of the Church Wharf, they always come back for the public purse. My other concern is the cost. I think it's running away. £5,000 per car parking space is now getting extortionate. And one final question is, we were told that the Jones Street Clinic, when this health hub opened up, would be untouched, that services would still be in there. That building has now been emptied and all services have now moved to the health hub. Why is Jones Street Clinic not been taken as, or a negotiation in order to pay for some of this work that needs to be done, taken as an asset by the council or in negotiations as a capital asset? I think there's lots of questions, and I'm between a rock and a hard place, if you know what I mean, Paul. I'm stuck here thinking the money isn't technically coming from Horwich. I'm kind of okay with it because, hey, it's Bolton money. But of course, I do have a duty to the taxpayer, and we all pay into that system. I think I've had an independent contractor go and have a look. He thinks £5,000 per parking space is a shocking amount of money, and he could do it for far less. Obviously, I don't know the full minutiae of what you've got going on underneath, and I know you pull your face. That's fine. Oh. But this extra bit for a road that the NHS Health Hub itself needs, that it planned for, should have been in the briefing. The road didn't change its structure. The vehicles are the same as they were a year, 2 years ago. And you plan to have these there. That should have been in the site condition report, the requirement for improvements to this road. I look forward to your answers, and I'll decide on whether or not I call this in further scrutiny. And I'll depending on your answers, I might come back. Thank you.
Right, Paul. Before I bring Councillor Warren in.
Yeah. So I mean, the planning approval did identify the space for the scanning vehicle HGV to be located on the site. You're correct there. The condition of this entrance, which was never thought to be an issue, has been identified as being an issue now and needs to be addressed in order to improve that access and get allow the access for the HGV. In theory, should that have been addressed in the NHS contract, that wasn't perceived to be an issue at the time. So something needs to be done. In terms of the this is the NHS contract is with UHDL, who are the contractors, and the council isn't party to the negotiation over each of the clinics and whether those are in private ownership or in public ownership, and how the funding has been agreed between the two clinics and the NHS, who have funded the development. So if you remember back to the original report and referencing the lease terms and the payment of £333,000 for the land to deliver the health hub, it was very, very, there were concerns about whether it was viable or not, whether this could be delivered. There were concerns about how important this was to the local community, how the health hub would create additional capacity for Horwich. It's the right location because then there's the ability for social prescribing and to get people into the leisure centre easily, and to get those benefits by co-locating it with the leisure centre. So the whole issue about whether we could secure more funding out of the NHS, well, the simple answer is we could not secure any more money out of the NHS, and which is we would have happily have secured the whole delivery of the car park out of the NHS, but that just wasn't physically possible and wasn't feasible, and therefore, and as you say, the detailed construction of the car park doesn't involve a bit of tarmac and a few white lines and a bit of lighting. It's the whole structure, the connection of all of the drainage across both their site and our site, and the lighting conduits across all of the various elements of ownership, connection of all the drainage to the United Utilities sewers. So it's more than just taking a bit of land and putting a bit of tarmac on it and painting some white lines. And we've been through with quantity surveyors, with Dwayne's team to validate the costs, and the costs aren't over and above what we would normally expect from one of our contractors, and one of our contractors has priced it as well, and the costs are valid, and at both our internal and external teams are happy with the costs of the work that Caddick have provided a quote on.
Thank you.
Can I just come back, please, Chair, briefly?
Yeah, Councillor Grant, and then
sorry, Adele. I know you're
no, it's fine. It's fine.
So this is a minor construction project. It's a car park, and whilst of course there is somewhat going into it, there's some engineering involved. Why don't we go outside of the framework? If other developers are saying, "Hey, do you know what? We can probably get you better value than what you're getting from your usual contractors in your framework," why are we not going out to look and put a proper tender and get a proper bid? Instead of going one, so you stick an extra nought on the end because they pretty much guaranteed the contract. But you didn't you didn't answer my question, and I think it's a really important one. We should only be suspending standing orders where it is absolutely critical. They're there for a reason, to prevent the council's overreach. We suspended standing orders so we could rush through the requirement that Caddick would do the car parks at the same time. And in order to do that, we suspended standing orders to rush this through, and they've not. And the idea was that it saved money, but now they've done them separately. So the residents still don't have a car park for the leisure centre. There's more money been identified needed for this road, and I would assume that as the two things are now separate, unless you come with a deal with Caddick, that it's costing more money. But my concern is that we suspended standing orders to facilitate the car park to go ahead at the same time, and ultimately save costs. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
Yeah, happy to come back on that. I think the aim is to get Caddick to complete the car park rather than a separate contractor completing the work to our bit of the land, because, as I indicated, there's interconnectivity between services, lighting, and levels, and the ability to bring it all into one phased contract. There was a need to ensure that the contract was phased so that there was car parking available. We tried to speed up that work and that negotiation with Caddick. There was some contractual terms that were needed to be finalised, so there has been a bit of delay, and that couldn't have been foreseen in terms of the detailed contract negotiation, but it has saved. If you got a new developer on, then it has saved the prelims that would normally be costed into a contract, and then your second question is, why don't we go outside of our frameworks? I mean, the frameworks are there for a purpose, and if the aim is to get Caddick to undertake those works, and we've validated that the works aren't excessive works beyond what we would expect, and that's what our advisors and our specialists within the council and outside of the council advise on. So there's nothing. It's not like we've gone to Caddick and they've added another 50% onto the bill. And you know, I don't know your advisor, but ultimately the costs have been validated and the costs are right. The delivery of the car park has been phased to enable some of the car park to be used. So the council's bit of the car park was used whilst the health centre car park was being finished off, and then whilst the council's bit of the land is being finished, then there is availability of the health centre car park to be used whilst the work is being undertaken on the council's land. So it is phased. It wouldn't have been done at the same time, because then no car parking would be available at all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
Thanks, Chair. I have a newfound appreciation of the planning process, clay soil and drainage, from what I'm going through myself at the moment. And I kind of, obviously, I've got a foot in both camps, because originally I signed off some of the decisions over the Horwich Health Hub. And I appreciate that, obviously, it's giving a facility to Horwich, and originally there should have been a car park and there wasn't one because there wasn't the money for it, and it is essential that it is completed. However, and I will say however, it's a lot of money. So it's nearly £1 million. And I think that to just have it in a report that kind of says, due to complications, I almost think it's important to kind of explain what those complications are, whether it be you found a load of contaminated land, there's drainage problems that needed, you know, further drainage works and, you know, exploration, etc., joining up services, moving services, things like that, just to kind of justify the cost. Because if this went out to the public, and they just saw that they were getting 200 car parking spaces, I don't think they'd necessarily see the value for money. And I don't think that this report necessarily explains the difficulties. It's just one sentence that basically says there has been difficulties. I do kind of, obviously, I sympathise with Paul and with Councillor Zaman as well, because you can only ever make a decision with information that you know at the time. And one of the problems with kind of developments is that you're constantly facing new information and new problems that have been unearthed. But I think with such a large amount of money, it may help to just have a better understanding of what the challenges have been that have meant that costs have kind of increased so much. Thank you.
Paul? Sorry, Councillor Wilkinson, is it related to this point? And then Paul can answer that, or is it?
It is, but it's also the financial side as well, actually.
Right. Well, I'll bring Paul in, and then I'll bring yourself in.
Yeah.
Paul. Yeah.
And again, I totally appreciate and in terms of the report, we could go into pages and pages and pages of detail. We didn't, you know, there's been probably 4 different reports on this topic up to now. There's a lot of history, a lot of detail within all of those reports, and I suppose that's the. It seems like a simple matter, because we've got to finish off the car park, and we've through the work we've undertaken as part of the detailed design of our portion of the car park, then this has been identified. This issue has been identified in terms of the ground conditions and the structure of that entrance, and that is why the additional cost of the works is required, and we could have gone into a lot more detail. I fully appreciate that, and we'll certainly take that feedback away.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson?
Yeah, thanks for that. I can understand.
We can't hear you, David. Just so move closer to the laptop, maybe. Yeah.
You don't hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, can now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll have to use my platform 1 voice. I can understand Norwich members being a bit peeved about how it's developed. I mean, looking at it from outside there, it's developing the length of an Icelandic saga, to say the least. I'm just looking at the attached documents. We go back to 2020, 4 years ago. You know, I mean, so there is a track record of documentation. Sometimes it'd be better if we had actually a live link to those, so we don't have to start trawling through them. But that's another issue. I have to say, looking at it from my perspective as a West Orton member, good luck to Norwich. You get a new health centre. I know there's issues in Norwich around how it got there and why, and you know all the rest of it. Again, at certain facilities. I look at it when I see additional money going out of the 100 million, and I'll be quite blunt about it. I'm going to wear my West Orton hat and say, oh, when West Orton asks for money out of the 100 million, the answer is no, you can't have any more, go away. I've got emails to that effect. And we talk about car parking in West Orton. The answer was, we had a lovely email back from the chief exec. Lovely. No, thanks very much, go away. So I have to say, when I see a section of the report which says, by the way, we can find 138,000 quid out of the 100 million and to complete a project in Norwich, which does need completing, that's great. But if that funding is available to do a project or whatever, I would like to know whether that availability of funding is available for other locations. And I try to be reasonable and friendly about when I ask about funding. As you may remember, it's like the man at Place Scrutiny. I did say, you give us some more money in West Orton and we can spend it effectively. And I'd like to repeat that statement. We don't get much in terms of funding, apart from the bit we had in the town centre. and we were told that's your lot, it doesn't go any more. So I would say again, if there is available funding which can be allocated out of that 100 million, we'll be asking again from West Orton, because we do have a project we would like to see done, which is car parking, which has a long-term beneficial impact on a town centre which is thriving at the moment. We have an empty building. Boom, somebody's there literally the day after, because we've got people who want to do things in this town.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to ask again, if money's available, please put West Orton on the list.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. We'll look into that. Absolutely. Paul, do you want to come back, or?
No, again, I think I mentioned at scrutiny that we will be gathering together all of the district centre projects, and then we'll be briefing you on what all of those projects are, what the costs are, and I think certainly the car park in West Orton, I did a lot of work in response to your email to gather the information. It is really difficult with the people that own that piece of land, and the expectation would be probably more than the cost of this car park just to buy it, let alone improve it, because of the people that are involved, without naming names, etc. So I mean, we can keep it under review. I'm aware of through our agent that that they're having ongoing discussions about various assets. So if they were to come down, I suppose the other question, and it's the government might change its view towards compulsory purchase, and there could be an ability in the future to actually take proper responsibility for bringing the right assets into the council at a reasonable price in the future, but that's not there yet, and we'll keep pushing the new government to actually change the CPO rights and abilities. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, thank you for your contributions, and I am very keen to get this project completed. So therefore, I am going to approve this report and this additional funding. And as I said, I would really like to see the completion of this project. Paul, do you want to come back?
And just trying to preempt Councillor Grant, but the only concern is if we are unable to keep the progress between the delivery of the council's bit of the car park through CADIC, and then CADIC being on site to then do the piece of work that I'm seeking approval for now, then there is likely to be additional costs incurred, because CADIC would complete one contract, move off site, and then there would be additional costs for them to come back on site to complete this element of it. And I would like to be able to get this project completed at the earliest possible point, once and for all, without there being any escalation of the costs. And it was just to make members aware of that element. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Thank you. Councillor Grant?
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering where the threat was. It's suddenly coming there right at the very end.
No, it's not
on the balance of everything, I too want to see an end to this saga. It's been going on actually since about 2014, Councillor Wilkinson, not 2020. The residents want to see an end to it. So on the balance of everything, even though I'm concerned and I will be watching it with my beady little eyes, I will not be calling it in. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Great news. Okay, we will now move into the confidential part of the meeting. So, Vicky, are you going to
Stop the recording.
stop recording?